1 Chronicles 10 from the Net Bible. Saul's death. Now the Philistines fought against Israel. The Israelites fled before the Philistines, and many of them fell dead on Mount Gilboa. The Philistines stayed right on the heels of Saul and his sons. They struck down Saul's sons, Jonathan, Abinadab, and Malchishua. The battle was thick around Saul. The archers spotted him and wounded him. Saul told his armour-bearer, "Draw your sword and stab me with it, otherwise these uncircumcised people will come and torture me." But his armour-bearer refused to do it because he was very afraid. So Saul took the sword and fell on it. When his armour-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he also fell on his sword and died. So Saul and his 3 sons died. His whole household died together. When all the Israelites who were in the valley saw that the army had fled and that Saul and his sons were dead, they abandoned their cities and fled. The Philistines came and occupied them. The next day, when the Philistines came to strip loot from the corpses, they discovered Saul and his sons lying dead on Mount Gilboa. They stripped his corpse, then carried off his head and his armour. They sent messengers throughout the land of the Philistines, proclaiming the news to their idols and their people. They placed his armour in the temple of their gods and hung his head in the temple of Dagon. When all the residents of Jabesh-Gilead heard about everything the Philistines had done to Saul, all the warriors went and recovered the bodies of Saul and his sons and brought them to Jabesh. They buried their remains under the oak tree in Jabesh and fasted for 7 days. So Saul died because he was unfaithful to the Lord and did not obey the Lord's instructions. He even tried to conjure up underworld spirits. He did not seek the Lord's guidance, so the Lord killed him and transferred the kingdom to David, son of Jesse. Ezekiel 23 from the Net Bible. 2 sisters. The word of the Lord came to me, "Son of man, there were 2 women who were daughters of the same mother. They engaged in prostitution in Egypt. In their youth, they engaged in prostitution. Their breasts were squeezed there. Lovers fondled their virgin nipples there." Ohala was the name of the older, and Oholibah was her younger sister. They became mine and gave birth to sons and daughters. Oholah is Samaria, and Oholibah is Jerusalem. Oholah engaged in prostitution while she was mine. She lusted after her lovers, the Assyrians, warriors clothed in blue, governors and officials, all of them desirable young men, horsemen riding on horses. She bestowed her sexual favours on them. All of them were the choicest young men of Assyria. She defiled herself with all whom she desired, with all their idols. She did not abandon the prostitution she'd practiced in Egypt, for in her youth men had sex with her, fondled her virgin breasts, and ravished her. Therefore I handed her over to her lovers, the Assyrians for whom she lusted. They exposed her nakedness, seized her sons and daughters, and killed her with the sword. She became notorious among women, and they executed judgments against her. Her sister, Oholibah, watched this. But she became more corrupt in her lust than her sister had been, and her acts of prostitution were more numerous than those of her sister. She lusted after the Assyrians, governors and officials, warriors in full armour, horsemen riding on horses, all of them desirable young men. I saw that she was defiled, Both of them followed the same path. But she increased her prostitution. She saw men carved on the wall, images of the Chaldeans carved in bright red, wearing belts on their waists and flowing turbans on their heads, all of them looking like officers, the image of Babylonians whose native land is Chaldea. When she saw them, she lusted after them and sent messengers to them in Chaldea. The Babylonians crawled into bed with her. They defiled her with their lust. After she was defiled by them, she became disgusted with them. When she lustfully exposed her nakedness, I was disgusted with her, just as I had been disgusted with her sister. Yet she increased her prostitution, remembering the days of her youth when she engaged in prostitution in the land of Egypt. She lusted after their genitals, as large as those of donkeys, and their seminal emission was as strong as that of stallions. This is how you assessed the obscene conduct of your youth, when the Egyptians fondled your nipples and squeezed your young breasts. Therefore, Aholibar, this is what the Sovereign Lord says. Look here. I am about to stir up against you the lovers with whom you were disgusted. I will bring them against you from every side, the Babylonians and all the Chaldeans, Pekod, Shoa and Koar, and all the Assyrians with them, desirable young men, all of them governors and officials, officers and nobles, all of them riding on horses. They will attack you with weapons, chariots, wagons, and with a huge army. They will array themselves against you on every side with large shields, small shields, and helmets. I will assign them the task of judgment. They will punish you according to their laws. I will direct my jealous anger against you, and they will deal with you in rage. They will cut off your nose and your ears, and your survivors will die by the sword. They will seize your sons and daughters, and your survivors will be consumed by fire. They will strip your clothes off you, and take away your beautiful jewellery. So I will put an end to your obscene conduct and your prostitution which you have practised in the land of Egypt. You will not seek their help or remember Egypt any more. For this is what the Sovereign Lord says. Look here. I am about to deliver you over to those whom you hate, to those with whom you were disgusted. They will treat you with hatred, take away all you have laboured for, and leave you naked and bare. Your nakedness will be exposed, just as when you engaged in prostitution and obscene conduct. I will do these things to you because you engaged in prostitution with the nations, polluting yourself with their idols. You have followed the ways of your sister. So I will place her cup of judgment in your hand. This is what the Sovereign Lord says. You will drink your sister's deep and wide cup. You will be scorned and derided, for it holds a great deal. You will be overcome by drunkenness and sorrow. The cup of your sister Samaria is a cup of horror and desolation. You will drain it dry, gnaw its pieces, and tear out your breasts, for I have spoken, declares the Sovereign Lord. Therefore, this is what the Sovereign Lord says. Because you have forgotten me and completely disregarded me, you must bear now the punishment for your obscene conduct and prostitution. The Lord said to me, Son of man, are you willing to pronounce judgment on Aholah and Aholibar? Then declare to them their abominable deeds. For they have committed adultery, and blood is on their hands. They have committed adultery with their idols, and their sons whom they bore to me, they have passed through the fire as food to their idols. Moreover, they have done this to me. In the very same day they desecrated my sanctuary and profaned my Sabbaths. On the same day they slaughtered their sons for their idols. They came to my sanctuary to desecrate it. This is what they've done in the middle of my house. They even sent for men from far away. When the messenger arrived, those men set out. For them you bathed, painted your eyes, and decorated yourself with jewellery. You sat on a magnificent couch with a table arranged in front of it, where you placed my incense and my olive oil. The sound of a carefree crowd accompanied her, including all kinds of men. Even Sabaeans were brought from the desert. The sisters put bracelets on their wrists and beautiful crowns on their heads. Then I said about the one worn out by adultery, now they will commit immoral acts with her. They had sex with her as one does with a prostitute. In this way they had sex with Oholah and Oholibah, promiscuous women. But upright men will punish them appropriately for their adultery and bloodshed, because they are adulteresses, and blood is on their hands. For this is what the Sovereign Lord says. Bring up an army against them, and subject them to terror and plunder. That army will pelt them with stones, and slash them with their swords. They will kill their sons and daughters, and burn their houses. I will put an end to the obscene conduct in the land. All the women will learn a lesson from this, and not engage in obscene conduct. They will repay you for your obscene conduct, and you will be punished for idol worship. Then you will know that I am the Sovereign Lord. Luke 20 from the Net Bible. The authority of Jesus. Now one day, as Jesus was teaching the people in the temple courts and proclaiming the gospel, the chief priests and the experts in the law with the elders came up and said to him, Tell us, by what authority are you doing these things, or who is it who gave you this authority? He answered them, I will also ask you a question, and you tell me. John's baptism, was it from heaven or from people? So they discussed it with one another, saying, If we say from heaven, he will say, Why did you not believe him? But if we say from people, all the people will stone us, because they are convinced that John was a prophet. So they replied that they did not know where it came from. Then Jesus said to them, Neither will I tell you by whose authority I do these things. The parable of the tenants. Then he began to tell the people this parable. A man planted a vineyard, leased it to tenant farmers, and went on a journey for a long time. When harvest time came, he sent a slave to the tenants so that they would give him his portion of the crop. However, the tenants beat his slave and sent him away empty-handed. So he sent another slave. They beat this one too, treated him outrageously, and sent him away empty-handed. So he sent still a third. They even wounded this one and threw him out. Then the owner of the vineyard said, What should I do? I will send my one dear son. Perhaps they will respect him. But when the tenants saw him, they said to one another, This is the heir. Let's kill him so the inheritance will be ours. So they threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. What then will the owner of the vineyard do to them? He will come and destroy those tenants and give the vineyard to others. When the people heard this, they said, May this never happen. But Jesus looked straight at them and said, Then what is the meaning of that which was written? The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Everyone who falls on this stone will be broken to pieces, and the one on whom it falls will be crushed." Then the experts in the law and the chief priests wanted to arrest him that very hour, because they realized he had told this parable against them. But they were afraid of the people. Paying taxes to Caesar. Then they watched him carefully and sent spies who pretended to be sincere. They wanted to take advantage of what he might say so that they could deliver him up to the authority and jurisdiction of the governor. Thus they asked him, "Teacher, we know that you speak and teach correctly and show no partiality, but teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. Is it right for us to pay the tribute tax to Caesar or not?" But Jesus perceived their deceit and said to them, "Show me a denarius. Whose image and inscription are on it?" They said, "Caesar's." So he said to them, "Then give to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." Thus they were unable, in the presence of the people, to trap him with his own words, and stunned by his answer, they fell silent. Marriage and the resurrection. Now some Sadducees, who contend that there is no resurrection, came to him. They asked him, "Teacher, Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies, leaving a wife but no children, that man must marry the widow and father children for his brother. Now, there were 7 brothers. The first one married a woman and died without children. The second and then the third married her, and in this same way all 7 died, leaving no children. Finally, the woman died too. In the resurrection, therefore, whose wife will the woman be? For all 7 had married her." So Jesus said to them, "The people of this age marry and are given in marriage, but those who are regarded as worthy to share in that age and in the resurrection from the dead neither marry nor are given in marriage. In fact, they can no longer die, because they are equal to angels and are sons of God, since they are sons of the resurrection. But even Moses revealed that the dead are raised in the passage about the bush, where he calls the Lord the God of Abraham and the God of Isaac and the God of Jacob. Now he is not God of the dead, but of the living, for all live before him." Then some of the experts in the law answered, "Teacher, you have spoken well," for they did not dare any longer to ask him anything. The Messiah, David's son and Lord. But he said to them, "How is it that they say that the Christ is David's son? For David himself says in the book of Psalms, 'The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet.' If David then calls him Lord, how can he be his son?" Jesus warns the disciples against pride. As all the people were listening, Jesus said to his disciples, "Beware of the experts in the law. They like walking around in long robes, and they love elaborate greetings in the marketplaces, and the best seats in the synagogues, and the places of honour at banquets. They devour widows' property, and as a show make long prayers. They will receive a more severe punishment."